So, Lebo, great to connect with you yesterday at the convention center. And of course, we were chatting about Airbnb, and I promised you I'd send you a quick clip of some of the things which we have resolved such that we can really automate a huge section of the Airbnb process, because we know that people are often what cost a lot of money, and we need total reliability and hassle-free hosting, right? So I'm quickly going to share a couple of things with you, which I think are what we're talking about. And as you said, you love tech. That's part of what I'm skilled at, is looking for that tech which can just make life easier. And there are a couple of things that which I'm going to show you, which of course makes a massive difference. And that's really going to come down to making sure that we listed high up on Airbnb, and we've got a whole lot of tricks to do that. Also, to really streamline the check-in process so we don't need people there, because we take advantage of the instant book, right? So in other words, we have found that during COVID, and especially now post-COVID, guests are arriving like last minute without having booked, and they're looking to book for that night, which means you have to have everything sorted. And let's say that someone arrives at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, and they want to book your place. If you are not automating it, that means that you're going to miss that booking, because they cannot just arrive and check themselves in, or more importantly, you or your team are going to have to always be awake or ready on the call for that. And when we travel the world, and I went to Thailand, to Bali, to US, the time zones are different. I'm not there to take their messages, and I certainly don't want to have a staff member who's going to have to wait. So all of that needs to be automated, right? So I want to chat about that. And of course, then part of that is just some of the other gadgets and techs, which we found is really useful in the actual management of the Airbnb, and of course the hosts, right? So I'm going to quickly just share with you here on the screen. This is actually one of my students. He's the one that I told you who rented the place out there in Camps Bay and then got into a hospital. So these are the kinds of things that we have figured out how to do. So you can see here these little emoticons, the emojis. You'll see that no one else does them because they don't know how to do that on Airbnb. I've sorted that out. And most importantly, we take advantage of this, right, to show a discounted price. I mean, look here, they don't do it, they don't do it, they don't do it, they don't do it. So we all know that when you perceive you have a good deal, you want it. Well, I figured out how to make that happen on will, not according to the Airbnb algorithm, but according to what I want. And of course, that's what therefore generates, right? We generate all these little things that very few people have because they don't know how to do it. I mean, look at here, I'm scrolling up here, no one's got it. Look at this, no one's got those emojis, no one's got the strike through. There it has, but that's probably because they've done it without knowing it, right? I know how to do that stuff, and that's going to make the biggest difference. So that's the first thing I was wanting to share with you around just some of the tricks that we have that will get you listed up first. And of course, that means more booking, greater occupancy rate, and of course, more money, right? So great, we've got power back on, so I can carry on with the video. So apologies for that and load shedding. So the next thing for me, which I've really been working a lot on, is the automation of the check-in process, because there are two things that are important here. We have to make sure that people can access without us having to be there. That's number one. And number two, it has to be dummy proof such that the stupidest person in the block can get in, right? So we have found that the moment you require someone to hand over keys or to get keys, we miss the opportunity to do the instant books, which are people that are arriving and choosing a place on the day of the arrival. So prior to COVID, over 50% of bookings came within 6 days, within the 6-day period prior to their actual event. Now, about 50% are actually made on the day that they're actually arriving. So that means that those people who do not have instant book available and easily accessible are going to miss out big time, right? And that definitely means people who may be arriving or booking at 6 o'clock at night and basically want to check in an hour later. So we need to make sure that keys are available, not necessarily about being handing over and all that kind of stuff, right? So for me, I've finally gone and I imported a lock here. It's great because it taps straight into my platform, my software, as well as to Airbnb, and it gives a code just for that guest linked to their cell phone for the period of time that they're there. So that's really important, right? So that's super, super important because that's all automated and the guest gets this access code. No keys are needed, etc., etc. So that's a big one. And of course, that is the game changer for the kind of stuff that we're talking about. Besides that, the next thing that's also really, really useful is this one, the management of guests. This little thing is, it's about that big. It actually sits on the ceiling and it measures noise level, humidity level, mold, temperature, and if it reaches a certain threshold, it links in over Wi-Fi and alerts me, so I can know that if a party has been in the apartment, I can get it straight away. If it's too humid, or if there's mold, it can let me know. If it gets too hot, it can let me know straight away. So all those things are absolutely essential, because I've had it where people had a party in one of my apartments and the body corporate came down on me hard. Because obviously, even though I have no rule policy, they still had their rule, right? I mean, they still had their party. And of course, I didn't know about it because I was overseas in Bali and the neighbors are trying to message me and there's not much that can happen. Whereas in this case, I'll get notified straight away that there is a certain threshold being reached for a certain period of time. So that's really important. So all these kinds of things are tech. They're actually fairly reasonable, but they're from the States, which is an interesting thing. But I tell you, you're right. It is so ripe here for South Africa, all these things, because it just is so useful, right? The next part that I think is, for me, the real game changer is the automation of all the messaging and the checklists and the checkups and the confirmation stuff, because that is where the reviews come in. If we know that we're providing an incredible service, we're going to get good reviews. And the most important thing on Airbnb are reviews, because they build trust. I say it's like gold. The reviews is really, really gold. So all that messaging is done automatically. It's a plug-in into the Airbnb. It goes in through an API code into the Airbnb platform, which means that whether it's booking.com or whether it's Airbnb, I can use the same messaging and it sends out. And I send messages on the day that they book, 3 days before they arrive, the night before they arrive, on the day they arrive, on the night before they check out, the day they check out. I'm sending them all these messages of how to check in, hope they're enjoying their stay, how to contact me or my team. I even send them messages the day after they have checked out, asking them for a review, on the 4th day after they've checked out, asking them for a review, and 10 days later asking them for a review, because I know that the more reviews I get, the more popular my place is, and obviously the more it looks like it's a good thing, right? And all this is done automatically. And so that's really the game changer, because it's all done in such a way that ensures efficiency, and of course, that's more money in our pocket. So I've actually got team members who, this is what they do. They actually set up all the automation, from the sense of all the messaging, all the software integration. They set that up for clients as part of the business that I've created with them. I've coached them on how to set it up. And I think that could be something that's really there. And of course, like I said, it links into booking.com and that. So I think there's a huge scope for what we're looking at. But this is just to give you a sense of it, Like I mentioned in the messaging, my cleaners get notified on the day of the guest booking. They get notified again on the actual day the guest checks out. They get to know how many guests were there, a whole lot of information that I choose to let them know. They have access to the Airbnb calendar, so they can see when their next cleaner, so they can coordinate. So all these kinds of things I've sorted out, right? Because I want to go travel to Bali and to the States and go surf and kite surf. I don't want to sit here with the headache of a whole lot of property. So that's just a good overview. And I think there's definitely some scope for us to do this because, of course, it's all scalable, right? If something's not scalable, I'm not interested. So that's my motto. But otherwise, I'll speak to you on Friday and look forward to seeing where there are synergies. Great. Have a good evening.